Hey everyone, this video I'm going to go over how to get Colab Notebook set up and how to use datasets that are external to Colab Notebook and not present in Colab but present on your drive, and how to follow along with our webinar series. So to start off, this is a notebook that we shared for one of the sessions of our webinar series for the mini data science bootcamp. And this is the drive location for a IPython notebook. An IPython notebook is the general notebook that's used in Colab and in Jupyter Notebook and so on. So this IPython notebook is sitting in Drive, and this is the link that was shared with you all on how to access it. So we need to open this in Google Collaboratory. And if you don't see this value up here, say that open with Google Collaboratory, click here on the right and connect more apps and pick Google Colab from there as the default app for IPython notebooks. So in this case, once this link is shared, we open up the Google Colab notebook to view what has been shared with us. Perfect. So now that you see, this is the notebook that was shared with us. And one thing to note is when I try to run anything in this notebook, it'll say it's a read-only notebook and it cannot be run. So to be able to run the notebooks that we share, we ask you to create a copy of the notebook for yourself so that you can run it by yourself, follow along with the webinar and make changes as you please. So for that, we go to File, Save a Copy in Drive. And this basically creates a copy in the drive and opens a new tab, populating it with the copy of the notebook that we just copied. Perfect. So to start off, always the dataset access is using 3 cells. The first cell is going to create the link between your Google Drive and your Google Colab, so that any data or CSVs that sit in your Google Drive can be accessed through Google Colab directly. So this first cell basically runs that. Before that, I want to show you this side tab that you see over here. If you go to the last option, it lists all the files that you have running on your machine. So since my runtime is still initializing, perfect, it's initialized now. So Google Colab comes with a set of sample data sets along with the option to mount your drive and so on. So clicking Mount Drive here achieves the same thing that cell number 1 achieves. It gives you authorization to add your drive over here. So whether I click Mount Drive or I run this cell, at the end of this, I expect to see an additional folder to sample data, which is my drive and has all of my files in the drive loaded over there. So let me run the first cell to show you what happens. So when you do this, it gives you a link and then says enter authorization code. Clicking on the link will generate the authorization code for you. So you click which Google account you want to store your data on, give it access to your drive. And then once you do this, you get the authorization code to be used. And going back here, I enter authorization code, hit return or enter. And this should create the link between my Google Colab and Drive. So the final statement, which says mounted at content drive, means that it's gone successfully and it has mounted it successfully in this location. So hitting a refresh, I should see an additional folder here, which is my drive. Perfect. I see my drive here. And your drive structure is based on how you've set up your drive. So it differs for each person. And that's the reason we're going over this exercise, because the person who created this notebook has their data stored in a different location, and that cannot always be the same location that you would be storing your data in your drive. So going into this, I'm just going to pull up the location where I want to store my data. So this data folder is where I want to store my data, and I haven't yet put any data in there, and it's empty right now. So next step is to get the data that you want. So for that, Kaggle is a great source for any data sets, or there are multiple other data sources like UCI and so on, which have a lot of free online data sets, which you can use for your own personal gain. So in this case, let's start off with a simple Titanic data sets. If you just Google Kaggle Titanic dataset, it should bring you to this page as the first option. And if you go to the data tab, you see that it has 3 CSVs associated with it, and it has the option to download. So we're going to download this data set into our machine. So there we go. Once downloaded, we want to unzip it and inspect what kind of data is there inside. We have 3 data files which I want to upload to my Google Drive. So going back to my Google Drive, I'm already in the data location, which I pointed out to you in the notebook. This location right here where I'm going to load the data. Right now it's empty, as we can see. And I'm going to create a folder called Titanic and load the 3 CSV files into this location. So once this is loaded successfully, if I go back to my notebook and hit refresh, I expect values to be populated under data. There we go. So Titanic has been loaded along with 3 CSVs in there. So when it comes to the notebook, take a look at what are we trying to achieve. So the first cell that we're running here, it basically tries to run a command line argument. Exclamation is just a way in which after the exclamation, anything that's there is a command line query or a format of a command line query that's running on the Google Colab notebook. So in this case, exclamation is marking that. ls is a way to get a list of all the files in your in a directory. And the parameter that's being passed after that is the directory you want to inspect. So in this case, Titanic is the folder that we want to inspect. So what we're going to do is, we know that this is the folder that this notebook is trying to inspect, but it is not in the same location in my directory. So what I need to do is get the path of the Titanic folder and change up the code so that it works for my data and not for the data it was built on. So running this, I expect 3 files to be listed here, which are the 3 CSVs that we see there. Perfect. And then next up, we're trying to load the train.csv file, but it is not in this location. We need to get the correct location for that. So right click on the file in question, do a copy path, and replace that path over here to be the right path. As you can see, the path has changed. It's different for me compared to the person who built this code, and it would be different for them. So once I run this, I just want to quickly show you that it works fine and the data frame loads properly. So running this, we see that DF is loaded properly and has 891 rows and 12 columns. So if you're having any issues loading your data or getting your Colab notebook to speak with your data, following this video will help you understand what the issue is and get it sorted out. So this is a good way for you to link Google Drive and your Colab notebook together. If you would not like to run this cell number 1 and do the authorization code, it is done implicitly in Mount Drive and achieves the same effect. And you can do that too. There is also a way for you to directly use Kaggle datasets in Python, in Colab notebooks using this API that's listed. And you can Google more about it to understand how to do this. But this is the easiest way for you to use internal data sets on your Python notebook that's hosted on the cloud without it interacting with your local directory. I hope this helps. Thank you, everyone.